imagine walking into a dealership to buy a car, right? But instead of looking at horsepower or safety ratings or fuel efficiency, your whole decision is entirely dictated by, well, by centuries-old European sumptuary laws.
Right, that sounds completely irrational.
It is. And on top of that, there's this intense psychological pressure
Mm-hmm.
and the blinding, sensory overloading glare of like 500 yards of white tulle.
Yeah, you're definitely not just looking at a spreadsheet in that scenario.
Exactly. The salesperson isn't giving you quantifiable data at all. They're literally just pointing at this massive sea of fabric and asking, does this make you feel like a princess?
Which is such an unhelpful metric.
It's absurd, but that is the bizarre, high-stakes, and I mean, often utterly paralyzing reality of bridal fashion.
It really is. It's an environment that's almost scientifically designed to induce decision fatigue.
Oh, 100%.
Because we usually rely on objective metrics for major life purchases, right?
Right.
Like buying a house or a car.
Yeah, you want the facts.
But when you step into a bridal boutique, you're completely stripped of those metrics. You are suddenly tasked with making a deeply personal, highly scrutinized aesthetic choice.
While drowning, literally drowning in a visual landscape that offers, virtually no navigational tool.
Exactly. And the stakes just feel incredibly high for you.
Right, because you're not just picking an outfit for a Tuesday at the office. You are trying to find a garment that supposedly encapsulates your entire authentic self.
And it has to be worn on one of the most heavily documented days of your life.
No pressure, right? So for anyone out there listening who is staring down that barrel, feeling that total visual overload, how do you actually navigate it?
That's the big question.
How do you build a strategy so you don't just, throw your hands up in exhaustion and buy the first thing that manages to zip up? Well, that is the exact mission of our deep dive today.
And it's a very necessary mission.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are exploring a fascinating methodology pulled straight from the Weddizer website. Specifically, we're diving into their incredible article section on niche bridal styling.
Yeah, and the brilliance of the Weddizer approach is that it treats fashion not as this mystical, intuitive art form that's reserved only for high-end designers.
Right, it makes it accessible.
Exactly. It treats it as a legible language, a framework you can actually use.
And by analyzing their comprehensive guides, particularly their piece on all-over lace wedding gowns with modern twists, we can actually extract a highly actionable set of tools.
We are definitely moving away from just looking at pretty pictures today.
Yeah, we are going to study the engineering, the psychology, and the actual geometry of bridal wear. Because taking this daunting, frankly terrifying industrial complex of wedding fashion and turning it into a controllable science of personal style is exactly the antidote you need.
I completely agree. And the Weddizer styling articles, they don't just bark orders at you, which is refreshing.
Oh yeah, they don't just say, hey, buy this season's silhouette because we said so.
No, they focus on a material that is arguably the single most recognizable, heavily burdened fabric in the history of fashion: lace.
And they use it as this amazing masterclass in how to manipulate tradition.
The word burdened is entirely appropriate here, too. I mean, to understand how to manipulate lace, you first have to understand the immense historical gravity it carries.
It's heavy stuff.
Wow.
Figuratively and literally.
Right. When you put on an all-over lace gown, you are not just putting on a patterned fabric, you are physically wrapping yourself in an aesthetic that was weaponized by European courts.
Weaponized.
Yeah, weaponized for centuries to denote absolute power, staggering wealth, and royalty.
I was actually reading through the historical context Weddizer provided on this, and it completely reframed my perspective. Because I think we look at lace today as something you can just, buy the yard at any craft store for a few bucks.
Right. It's ubiquitous now.
But before industrialization, this stuff was essentially woven gold.
Honestly, it was far more tedious than gold. In the 16th and 17th centuries, creating Chantilly or Venetian needle lace required this microscopic, painstakingly precise handwork.
I can't even imagine the eye strain.
It was brutal. A single inch of complex lace could take a skilled artisan an entire day to produce 1 inch.
1 inch a day. That is insane.
So to create enough yardage for a full gown, you would require teams of women working in well-lit rooms for months, sometimes years.
Which means the very existence of a lace garment communicated a terrifying level of disposable wealth. You were literally wearing thousands of hours of human labor on your body.
Exactly that. And it was so exclusive that they literally had sumptuary laws.
Wait, sumptuary laws?
Yeah, laws dictating what you were legally allowed to wear based on your social class.
Oh, just to keep the merchants from wearing the same lace as the aristocracy, right?
Precisely. They had to legally protect the aesthetic, and that exclusivity was violently cemented into our modern bridal consciousness in 1840.
Ah, Queen Victoria.
Yep. When Queen Victoria married Prince Albert, she didn't just wear white, which was an anomaly in itself at the time.
Right, people used to just wear their best dress, whatever color it was.
Exactly. But she specifically commissioned massive amounts of handmade Honiton lace for her gown.
And she did it partly as like a nationalist economic stimulus, right?
Right.
To save the dying British lace industry.
She did. But the cultural ripple effect of that decision was permanent. She married the concept of lace, the color white, and the bridal occasion into a single, unbreakable trinity.
So when you, the modern listener, walk into a boutique today and put on a lace dress, your brain, and the brains of everyone looking at you, is subtly processing that 1840 royal mandate.
It has this undeniable psychological weight.
It feels like a special occasion because historically it was literally illegal for normal people to wear it.
But you know, that historical baggage creates a massive tension for the modern wearer.
Oh, a profound tension. Because the modern consumer is not a 19th century monarch.
No, today's brides are operating under a completely different sociological mandate. They have a huge desire for fierce individuality and modern innovation.
Right. You want to look timeless. You have this fear of looking at your wedding album in 20 years and physically cringing at how dated you look.
Everyone has that fear.
You want the dignity and the romance that the Weddizer articles point out. You know, the softness, the intricate detail.
But at the exact same time, you want to look modern. You want to look like your current, authentic 21st century self.
Exactly. You do not want to feel like you're participating in a historical reenactment at a Renaissance fair.
The challenge is holding those two opposing truths in your hands simultaneously. How do you wear a fabric steeped in ancient royal tradition without allowing the fabric to completely swallow your modern identity?
And I love how the Weddizer thesis proposes a solution here. They basically say that lace is actually the ultimate bridge between these eras.
Provided you completely abandon the traditional application of it, yes.
Right. While reading the articles, this analogy hit me. I was thinking, lace is essentially the acoustic guitar of bridal fashion.
The acoustic guitar, I like that.
Yeah, it's foundational. It's an absolute classic instrument. But depending on how you string it, how you tune it, and the pedals you run it through, or in this case, how the dress is structurally engineered, it can play a traditional, sweeping, classical ballad, or it can be a total face-melting rock anthem.
That is a highly functional way to visualize it. The material itself is the acoustic base. The architectural interventions, what Weddizer calls the modern twists, those are your distortion pedals.
But I have to throw a flag on the play here for a second.
Oh, go ahead.
Because if lace is so incredibly traditional, so burdened by Queen Victoria's ghost, isn't an all-over lace gown inherently going to skew toward the classical ballad?
It's a fair concern.
I mean, if the entire garment from neck to toe is constructed from this vintage material, how does a bride prevent herself from looking like a walking antique?
That question cuts to the absolute core of dressmaking. And the answer is that fashion is not about the textile, it is about the architecture.
The architecture. Okay, tell me more.
Well, think of it like building materials. A pile of bricks can build a medieval dungeon, or it can build a sleek, mid-century modern loft.
Oh, that's a great point.
The bricks remain exactly the same. It's the engineering that changes. So to rescue lace from the 1800s, modern designers have radically altered the physics of how the gown interacts with the human body.
Let's dissect that architecture then, because this is where the Weddizer methodology becomes incredibly practical for you as a listener.
They highlight very specific structural interventions that completely rewrite the DNA of the lace dress.
Yeah, and the first major intervention they point out in their guide is the illusion neckline and sheer panels.
Now, at first glance, that just sounds like a stylistic choice. Like, oh, it's modest yet daring.
Right. But looking closer at the mechanics on the Weddizer site, it's practically aerospace engineering.
What's fascinating here is that it is entirely an engineering marvel. Historically, a lace dress had a rigid, opaque backing. The lace was sewn onto heavy silk or cotton, creating a thick, solid shell.
Like wearing a tapestry.
Exactly. The illusion technique completely discards that shell. Designers utilize ultrafine, highly tensile synthetic micro mesh.
And they dye it meticulously to vanish against the wearer's exact skin tone, right?
Yes. This mesh acts as a totally invisible load-bearing wall.
So you aren't just sewing lace together. You are suspending heavy, intricate lace appliques on an invisible grid.
You are literally defying gravity. By strategically placing heavy lace motifs, say, creeping up the collarbone or floating down the arms onto this invisible mesh, the eye is tricked.
It looks as though the lace is organically growing on the skin.
Completely unsupported, and this allows designers to execute incredibly aggressive, plunging necklines or off-the-shoulder silhouettes that appear structurally impossible.
Because the wearer is actually strapped into a highly secure, tension-based harness, but aesthetically, they appear totally unencumbered.
It takes a historically heavy, suffocating fabric and renders it entirely weightless.
Okay, that is fascinating. It's an optical illusion powered by synthetic tensile strength. You get the regal dignity of the lace, but the vulnerability of bare skin.
Which feeds perfectly into the next architectural twist Weddizer focuses on, which is manipulating negative space.
Right, they highlight backless and deep V designs.
If the illusion neckline is about floating the lace, the deep geometric cut is about violently interrupting the lace.
Interrupting it, I like that phrasing.
Again, look at the historical precedent. It was about total coverage. The modern intervention is to take a classic, intricate chantilly or guipure lace and simply slice massive geometric voids into it.
Like a plunging V-neck that dives all the way down to the sternum.
Or a completely exposed back that drops below the lumbar spine.
It's the contrast that makes it work, isn't it? I mean, if the whole dress was sheer, it would just be lingerie.
Exactly.
But because you have this thick, highly detailed royal fabric aggressively framing the bare skin, the negative space actually becomes the focal point.
The contrast generates the aesthetic friction. The heavy history of the fabric actually amplifies the modernity of the bare skin.
The sheer volume of tradition surrounding the cutout is what makes the cutout look so rebellious.
Absolutely. But, even if you master the tension of the bodice, you still have to contend with how the garment moves.
Oh, movement is huge.
And this is where we see the most profound sociological shift in the Weddizer guide, the rebellion of the hemline.
Yes. The short and high-low hemlines. The Weddizer articles explicitly state that the floor-length rule is dead.
They pitch this as a win for comfort and style.
But honestly, reading between the lines on their site, this feels like an absolute revolution regarding the bride's physical agency.
It is nothing short of a kinetic revolution. I mean, consider the mechanics of a traditional floor-length lace gown with a cathedral train.
It's heavy.
Very heavy. That garment fundamentally dictates your physical reality. You cannot take a normal stride. You cannot walk backward without tripping.
You require actual attendance just to manually lift the fabric so you can navigate stairs.
You are physically hobbled by the garment. It is not closing. It is a static, ceremonial monument that you happen to be standing inside of.
You're just a centerpiece on a table at that point. You aren't meant to move. You're meant to be looked at.
But the introduction of a short lace dress or a high-low hemline, where the front is cropped to the knee or mid-calf while the back retains a sweeping train, totally shatters that monument.
It restores the biomechanics of the wearer.
Yes. By freeing the legs, the gown transitions from a ceremonial costume into a functional, dynamic piece of high fashion.
It communicates a massive psychological shift. It says, I am not a static object to be admired. I am an active participant.
Exactly. I am going to walk aggressively. I am going to dance. I am going to command this space.
I absolutely love that framing. You are taking your mobility. You're weaponizing the lace for movement.
It's very empowering.
But, okay, if we are modernizing the dress, I have to bring up a twist that gave me serious pause when I saw it in the Weddizer guide.
Which one?
Twist number 4. Statement sleeves. Specifically, puffed or bishop styles.
Yes. I see where you're going with this.
Because honestly, when I hear puffed lace sleeves, my brain forcefully ejects me from the modern era and traps me in a terrifying 1980s wedding montage.
The anxiety is entirely justified there. The 1980s bridal aesthetic is a masterclass in how to misuse proportion and fabric.
It looked like brides were hiding inflated watermelons on their shoulders.
It was very extreme.
It was stiff, it was shiny, it looked completely synthetic, and the bride always looked like she was drowning in a sea of aggressive upholstery.
So how does Weddizer's modern guidance rescue the statement sleeve from that traumatic historical context?
Please tell me, because I need to know.
Well, it does it by entirely reversing the structural philosophy of the 80s. The failure of the 80s sleeve was opacity and rigid understructure.
So they were basically built like little tents.
Yes. Those sleeves were heavily lined with taffeta or satin, and often structurally supported by buckram or crinoline. They were solid, opaque geometric shapes attached to the shoulders.
Oof, that sounds so uncomfortable.
The modern bishop sleeve, as guided by Wetzer's contemporary styling, is a study in fluidity and transparency.
So we drop the upholstery padding.
We drop all the backing. A modern lace statement sleeve is completely unlined. It relies purely on the drape of a very soft lace, like a chantilly or an alençon falling over the bare arm.
Okay, so the volume is still there, pooling at the wrist in a dramatic bishop style.
Exactly. But because the fabric is sheer, the human arm remains visually present beneath it.
Ah, so it creates an ethereal, soft drama rather than a rigid, costumey bulk.
You get the romance of volume without the claustrophobia of heavy fabric.
So once again, the savior's transparency. The eye still processes the arm, so the volume of the sleeve feels like a cloud around the arm rather than a cast encasing it.
It completely changes the vibe.
It really does. And speaking of changing how the eye processes the fabric, let's look at the final modern twist from this section of the Weddizer methodology. Mixed fabrics.
This is a crucial one.
They talk about combining lace with satin, tulle, or organza to create depth.
This is the remedy for what I call the wallpaper effect.
The wallpaper effect.
Yeah. The inherent danger of an all-over lace dress is visual flattening. If you have a highly repetitive, dense floral pattern wrapping the entire human body from neck to toe, the eye gets exhausted.
Oh, because there's no break, no negative space.
There's no hierarchy of detail. The wearer ends up looking like a very elegant but totally two-dimensional roll of vintage wallpaper.
Right, because there's no visual relief. It's just a solid wall of texture.
So to disrupt that flatness, modern construction utilizes underlays of completely different textile families.
How does that work in practice?
Well, if you take a delicate graphic lace and applique it over a stark, rigid, high-shine satin, the lace physically pops off the surface.
Oh, I see.
The light bounces off the satin, casting these micro shadows behind the lace, giving it an architectural, sculptural rigidity.
And what if you go the other direction? What if you pair the lace with something like tulle?
Then you create a totally different optical illusion. If you bury layers of lace between sheets of soft, matte tulle, you diffuse the pattern.
So the tulle acts almost like a physical Instagram filter.
Exactly, softening the edges of the lace. As the bride moves, the layers shift against each other, creating a dynamic, shadowy 3D effect.
The lace is no longer a flat pattern. It becomes a living terrain.
It really does.
This is exactly why the Weddizer platform is such a game changer. I mean, when you read their articles, you stop looking at dresses as just pretty or ugly.
You start looking at them as feats of textile engineering.
You've got gravity-defying mesh, negative space geometry, kinetic hemlines, transparent volume, and 3D topographical layering.
You acquire a technical vocabulary, and once you have that vocabulary, you are no longer at the mercy of the salesperson.
You can articulate exactly what mechanisms you want your garment to employ.
That gives you so much control.
And this is a massive bit, but we have to transition from the mannequin to the human being.
Yes, we do. Because theory is one thing, reality is another.
Because you could find a dress that perfectly executes every single modern twist we just discussed. It could be a masterpiece of 3D mixed fabric engineering with an immaculate illusion plunge.
A true work of art on the hanger.
But the second you take it off the hanger and put it on a biological, asymmetrical, living human body, the entire mathematical equation changes.
Dramatically.
A masterpiece of engineering is entirely useless if it fights the fundamental physics of the person wearing it.
I'd argue it is worse than useless. It is actively detrimental. A garment that ignores the wearer's geometry will visually distort the wearer.
Which brings us to arguably the most vital application of the Weddizer website, custom tailoring the canvas.
This is where their guidance really shines.
Their niche styling articles essentially function as a virtual fitting room. They break down the specific architectural rules for how different dress silhouettes interact with different body shapes.
And they do this so that you can strategize before you ever set foot in a store.
Which completely eliminates that panic-inducing information overload we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So let's dig into the math of this, starting with the hourglass figure.
Let's look at that.
Weddizer specifically recommends fitted lace gowns, mermaid, or trumpet styles. What is the specific structural logic here?
To understand the logic, we have to look at the visual goal of apparel design, which is often rooted in classical proportions.
Proportions, okay.
The hourglass figure is defined by strong symmetry. The width of the shoulders and bust is roughly equal to the width of the hips, punctuated by a significantly narrower waist.
Right. It is a highly balanced equation.
Exactly. So if you put that perfectly balanced equation inside a massive unstructured ball gown, you obliterate the natural symmetry.
We're just hiding the mass.
You introduce massive amounts of unnecessary volume that confuses the eye.
You're essentially putting a giant box over a perfectly balanced scale.
That's a perfect way to describe it. The mermaid, or trumpet silhouette, conversely, is an exercise in structural mirroring.
How so?
The garment is highly tailored. It closely tracks the physical lines of the torso, the waist, and the hips. It amplifies the existing math of the body.
But then, crucially, it flares out violently at the knee or mid-calf.
And that flare at the bottom serves a vital architectural purpose. It provides a visual counterweight to the shoulders and bust, ensuring the entire silhouette remains anchored and symmetrical.
It doesn't hide the body's geometry. It dramatically underlines it.
Celebrates it.
So what does this all mean for someone listening? It means it's about amplifying the natural math. I see that. Okay, but what if the natural math is heavily weighted to one side?
That's a very common scenario.
Let's look at the pear-shaped body, where the hips are significantly wider than the shoulders. Weddizer dictates A-line lace gowns to balance proportions here.
And there's a brilliant historical precedent for this.
I was staring at this in their guide, and I had a realization. The A-line isn't just about hiding the hips, is it? It's much more aggressive than that.
It is an aggressive, brilliant geometric manipulation. Christian Dior built his entire New Look empire on this specific optical illusion in the 1940s.
Oh, wow. Dior.
Yeah. A pear-shaped wearer carries their visual weight in the lower hemisphere of their body. If you put them in a mermaid dress, the eye is immediately drawn to the absolute widest point of the silhouette.
Creating an unbalanced top-to-bottom ratio.
Right, it highlights the disparity, but the A-line operates completely differently.
It heavily tailors and constricts the bodice, right?
Yes, drawing intense focus to the natural waist, which is the absolute narrowest point of the human torso.
And then what?
From that narrow point, the dress radically breaks away from the body's natural lines. It constructs a stiff, perfectly smooth equilateral triangle, an A shape, that flows completely unimpeded to the floor.
So it completely overrides the biology.
Ex-
You are effectively erasing the actual lower half of the body and replacing it with an artificial geometric shape.
You are rewriting the lower hemisphere of the silhouette. Because the skirt flares out independently of the hips, the eye cannot perceive the actual width of the wearer's lower body.
The eye only sees the mathematically perfect triangle of the skirt.
And the visual weight of that sweeping skirt perfectly balances the narrower shoulders above it. It is an exercise in total optical control.
And when you execute that A-line in all-over lace, the intricate detailing of the fabric naturally draws the viewer's eye upward, constantly returning focus to that cinched, narrow waist.
It's incredibly flattering.
That is mind-blowing. It's not clothing, it's an architectural override.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, fashion is really about controlling the viewer's eye.
Okay, let's shift to how the eye travels vertically. Let's talk about the petite bride.
Another fascinating geometric challenge.
The Weddizer strategy here strongly pushes for short lace dresses, or gowns with explicitly vertical lace patterns, to elongate the silhouette. What is the optical science of height manipulation?
Well, height perception is entirely dependent on visual interruption. The human eye is lazy. It wants to travel along the path of least resistance.
That makes sense.
When you look at a person, your eye attempts to scan them vertically from the floor to their face. Every time your eye hits a harsh horizontal line, like a thick velvet sash at the waist, a tiered ruffled skirt, or sudden change in fabric color, the eye is forced to stop.
It has to stop, process the line, and restart.
Precisely.
So horizontal lines are essentially speed bumps for the eyeballs.
They are speed bumps that chop the wearer's body into distinct segmented blocks. If a petite wearer is chopped into 3 or 4 blocks, their overall perceived height drastically shrinks.
They look compressed.
Exactly. They lose that vertical flow.
So how does the Weddizer vertical lace strategy actually fix that compression?
By building a high-speed optical highway, modern lace designers will physically manipulate the appliques, taking vine motifs, climbing floral patterns, or rigid geometric Art Deco lines, and place them so they run continuously vertically up the length of the gown.
Oh, so there are 0 horizontal breaks?
None.
Yeah.
The eye hits the hem of the dress and shoots straight up to the wearer's face without a single interruption.
That continuous vertical processing artificially elongates the brain's perception of the frame.
It's a very neat trick.
That is incredibly clever. And I imagine the recommendation for short dresses does something similar for petite wearers.
Yes, but it works by removing the visual anchor.
The visual anchor.
A massive, heavy, floor-length lace skirt visually weighs the wearer down. It anchors them to the floor. By chopping the hem to the knee, you expose the leg.
Hem's skin is visually lighter than heavy textile.
Exactly. The eye reads the leg, reads the continuous line of the short dress, and perceives a much taller, lighter, less encumbered silhouette.
Speed bumps versus optical highways. I will never look at a dress the same way again.
It changes everything once you see the mechanics.
Now what about the opposite end of the spectrum? The tall bride.
Ah, the tall bride.
Weddizer essentially gives tall brides a blank check, telling them to experiment with massive dramatic trains, heavy layered 3D lace, and bold, oversized designs.
This comes down to the concept of physical real estate and carrying capacity.
Carrying capacity, that sounds like a truck rating.
Oh, it's similar. An oversized, aggressive, 6-inch wide floral lace pattern on a heavily layered 3D cathedral train is visually deafening. It has massive aesthetic gravity.
It's loud.
Very loud. If you put that much visual gravity on a petite frame, the dress totally consumes the wearer. The dress enters the room 5 minutes before the bride does.
The dress is wearing the person.
Precisely. But a tall frame possesses the sheer vertical real estate to support that gravity.
The physical length of the wearer's body naturally dilutes the intensity of the oversized pattern and the massive volume.
Yes. A tall bride acts as a sufficiently large canvas to properly display a massive, chaotic masterpiece of layered lace without being overwhelmed by it.
So if we synthesize all of this, the Weddizer website isn't just offering a catalog of pretty gowns. It's offering a survival manual for the physics of fashion.
That's a perfect summary.
You identify your anatomical variables, the symmetry of the hourglass, the bottom weight of the pair, the verticality of the petite or tall frame, and you deploy the exact structural countermeasures.
You apply the A-line triangle, the vertical speed highway, or the sheer volume.
You transition from hoping a dress magically looks good to mathematically knowing why it works.
It removes the guesswork entirely.
But because there is always another layer of complexity in fashion, even if you perfectly calculate the math, even if you merge the perfect modern twist with the exact correct anatomical silhouette,
The look is still critically vulnerable.
extremely vulnerable. Because a dress does not exist in a vacuum. A perfectly tailored, structurally flawless lace gown can be completely, utterly destroyed by a bad pair of earrings or the wrong venue.
Absolutely. The garment is only the nucleus.
Only the nucleus.
The holistic styling, the hair, the makeup, the accessories, and the physical environment, that is the cellular wall that determines how that nucleus interacts with the world.
Which catapults us into our final frontier today. Holistic styling and environmental context. Let's look at Weddizer's specific rules for accessorizing this modern lace aesthetic.
They have very strong opinions on this.
Their number one non-negotiable styling tip is
Yeah.
minimal accessories. They explicitly state you have to let the gown shine. And reading this, I felt like they were staging an intervention for brides who want to wear everything they own at once.
It really is an intervention based on the fundamental design principle of contrast and focal points.
Explain that a bit more.
Well, an all-over lace dress, especially one utilizing modern 3D twists, sheer panels, and mixed textiles, is an incredibly dense, chaotic piece of visual information. It is loud.
It's a highly complex equation, all on its own.
Right. And the human eye can only process so much complexity at once before it becomes exhausted and perceives the visual input as just chaotic noise.
Nobody wants to be perceived as chaotic noise on their wedding day.
Definitely not. If you pair a hyper-detailed, high-volume lace gown with equally high-volume accessories, like a massive, sparkling, multi-tiered tiara, heavy chandelier earrings, and a thick diamond choker, you are creating a battleground.
The accessories are actively screaming for attention over the deafening roar of the dress.
Exactly.
It's exactly like having two different rock anthems blasting from two different stereos in the same small room. It's not music anymore, it's just a headache. You don't know what to listen to.
The eye literally twitches. It doesn't know where to rest. Weddizer's mandate for minimal accessories provides crucial visual silence.
Visual silence, like what?
Like a sheer, unembellished, raw edge veil. A single delicate pearl drop. A whisper-thin gold chain.
So these low detail accents act as negative space, allowing the high detail lace to stand alone as the undisputed focal point.
You are aggressively managing the viewer's attention.
And this philosophy extends right up to the bride's face, too.
Yes, the beauty styling is just as important.
The Weddizer guides push for modern, understated hair and makeup Sleek architectural buns, clean ponytails, loose, unstyled waves.
They are actively fighting against that stiff, heavily hairsprayed prom queen updo of the past.
It's all about creating a clean canvas so the dress can do the heavy lifting. But while we are on the topic of styling, we have to talk about the footwear.
Oh, the footwear, yes.
Because Weddizer champions something that I find utterly fascinating. And arguably, it's the most rebellious concept we've discussed so far.
You're talking about the bridal sneaker.
The bridal sneaker. Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because pairing an ancient, historically heavy fabric like all-over lace with a literal athletic sneaker is the ultimate violent clash of contexts.
The bridal sneaker is a profound cultural artifact. It is arguably the sharpest pivot in the modern bridal aesthetic.
I am obsessed with this. It feels so defiant.
It is a clash, but it is a highly intentional philosophical clash. For centuries, women's formal footwear has operated on a philosophy of aesthetic suffering.
Suffering for fashion.
Always. The goal was to achieve a specific visual silhouette, the elongated leg, the arched foot, regardless of the extreme physical pain inflicted on the wearer over a 12-hour event.
The stiletto heel is functionally a mechanism of physical restriction.
Exactly.
We're back to the ceremonial monument concept. You suffer for the visual.
But the bridal sneaker completely detonates that philosophy, and we aren't talking about a dirty gym shoe, obviously.
Which are styled.
These are often meticulously styled. Crisp white leather, perhaps embellished with pearls, sheer organza laces, or delicate lace appliques to speak the language of the dress.
But structurally, it remains an athletic shoe.
The adoption of this shoe loudly declares a new hierarchy of needs. The bride's internal physical joy, her stamina, and her autonomy are now vastly more important than adhering to a painful external aesthetic tradition.
It's the physical manifestation of, I'm here to party, not to pose.
Exactly. It's about being present in the moment rather than just being an object to be photographed.
But I have a philosophical question for you on this.
Go for it.
If I utilize the Weddizer blueprint perfectly,
Yeah.
let's say I buy an intensely traditional all-over lace dress, but it has the modern sheer illusion neckline, my hair is in a slick modern ponytail, and I am aggressively rocking a pair of platform bridal sneakers.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Am I still a classic bride? Because I have all the ingredients of tradition, but the execution feels completely alien to a classic aesthetic. Have I broken the spell of the lace?
You haven't broken the spell. You have mastered it.
Mastered it.
You have moved beyond the binary of classic versus modern. You are functioning as a postmodern bride.
A postmodern bride. Break that down for me.
Well, a classic bride is subservient to tradition. She wears the lace, the stiff veil, and the painful shoes because the institution demands it.
Right, she's following the rules.
But a postmodern bride treats tradition as a buffet. You are actively taking the historical signifiers, the aristocratic weight of the lace, the bridal white, and knowingly, deliberately colliding them with signifiers of modern utility and comfort, like the sneaker and the sleek hair.
And the aesthetic power comes directly from that juxtaposition.
Exactly. It proves that you are in control of the history, rather than the history being in control of you.
Mastery over the aesthetic. I love that. And that mastery, according to Weddizer, has to extend far beyond the bride's physical body. It has to extend to the actual geographical location of the event.
The venue is paramount.
They were essentially teaching you set design here. Your outfit is the costume, and it has to make sense within the architecture of the set.
Because context dictates reality. A garment that looks revolutionary in one environment can look utterly absurd in another.
Let's run through Weddizer's environmental cheat sheet from their website. Let's start with European-inspired venues. Castles, grand historical estates, massive stone architecture.
For this, they pivot back toward the heavy tradition. Vintage lace, long sleeves, sprawling cathedral veils.
Why go backwards into tradition there?
This is a matter of architectural scale and gravity. If you stand in the courtyard of a 12th century French chateau, surrounded by massive stone turrets and towering stained glass, the environment possesses immense visual weight.
Heavy.
If you wear a minimalist, ultra-sheer, high-low lace dress in that space, the venue will completely consume you. You will look flimsy.
Oh, I see.
You require the heavy armor of vintage lace, the severe structure of long sleeves, and the sprawling square footage of a cathedral veil just to visually hold your ground against the masonry. You must match the gravity of the room.
You are building aesthetic armor to fight the castle. I love that. But then you completely invert that strategy if you look at their guidance for a beach wedding.
Completely different environment.
Right. Weddizer dictates lightweight, breathable fabrics, soft unlined lace, and completely relaxed silhouettes.
Because the environmental context has shifted from rigid stone to kinetic nature, the beach is defined by wind, sand, and water. It is fluid.
So if you wear that heavy, long-sleeved, structured cathedral gown on a beach, you look completely disconnected from reality.
You look like you are actively fighting the elements. You look hot, uncomfortable, and frankly, a bit ridiculous dragging heavy lace through wet sand.
The soft, unlined lace strategy allows the garment to organically interact with the ocean breeze. It catches the wind, it breathes, it acknowledges the environment rather than ignoring it.
You have to harmonize with the space.
You are working with the physics of the venue, not against them. They apply the same organic logic to a garden wedding, too.
The garden setting is interesting.
The Weddizer article specifically suggests heavy floral lace patterns and flowy botanical designs for that. You are literally wearing camouflage.
Beautiful camouflage.
Right. You are mimicking the organic foliage of the garden, blending into the romance of the natural world.
It creates a very cohesive image.
But the final environment they tackle on their site is perhaps the most demanding. The city wedding.
Ah, yes, the urban environment.
A modern loft, a rooftop, a sleek city hall. They demand chic, heavily structured lace dresses with aggressive modern cuts.
Because a modern city environment is a landscape of sharp angles. It is steel, glass, concrete, and severe geometry.
So an organic, flowy, bohemian floral lace dress looks out of place there.
It looks entirely out of place in a glass box loft. It looks overly sentimental.
So how do you survive aesthetically in the city?
To visually survive in an urban environment, the dress must converse with the skyline. You need the sharp, aggressive geometry of a deep plunging V-neck. You need the severe, kinetic cut of a high-low hemline.
You need the architectural pop of 3D lace layered over stiff satin.
Exactly. The dress must become a piece of modern architecture itself.
It all comes down to speaking the exact same visual language as the room you are standing in. And when you pull back and look at this entire conversation, it's incredibly empowering.
It really is.
By utilizing a platform like Weddizer, not just mindlessly scrolling through a store, but actually reading and digesting their educational styling resources, you completely strip the terror out of bridal shopping.
You evolve. You transition from being a passive, terrified consumer standing in a dressing room waiting to be told what looks good, to an informed, strategic curator of your own visual identity.
You walk into the boutique, armed to the teeth.
Exactly.
So to distill the massive amount of intelligence we've unpacked today from the Weddizer methodology, the absolute undeniable magic of lace is its adaptability.
It's an incredibly versatile medium.
It isn't just a suffocating antique fabric mandated by 19th century royalty. It is a highly flexible, highly engineered canvas.
That's the biggest takeaway.
And by understanding those 5 architectural twists, how sheer netting literally defies gravity, how negative space creates friction, how altering a hemline restores your physical autonomy.
And how unlined sleeves create soft volume and mixed textiles build 3D sculptures.
Right. You stop seeing a dress and you start seeing an engineered machine.
And by taking that engineered machine and rigorously applying the mathematical laws of your specific body geometry, you take total control.
Using the A-line triangle to rewrite a pear shape, using vertical optical highways to stretch a petite frame, or using the mermaid silhouette to amplify natural symmetry.
You ensure that the garment serves your physical reality rather than forcing your body to serve the garment.
And finally, by locking down that holistic styling, protecting the dress with minimal accessories, prioritizing your joy with the postmodern bridal sneaker, and precisely matching the architectural gravity of your gown to the physical environment of a castle, a beach, or a city skyline.
You are executing a masterclass in aesthetic control.
You are dictating the narrative. You are telling the audience exactly what to look at and exactly how to feel about it.
Which ultimately is the entire point of this deep dive. The purpose of analyzing all this granular information, the physics and the history, isn't to force you into a specific rigid set of rules.
No, not at all.
It is to give you absolute agency. It's about ensuring that when you finally put that garment on, you don't feel like an imposter wearing an uncomfortable historical costume.
You feel uniquely, fiercely, authentically yourself and totally breathtaking entirely on your own terms. You conquer the visual overload. You beat the system by understanding how the system is built. But before we officially wrap up this deep dive, as always, we want to leave you with a philosophical thread to pull on long after this conversation is over.
And looking at the sheer scale of the evolution we've dissected today, this raises an important question.
Let's hear it.
We have tracked how bridal fashion has mutated from the strict, heavy, oppressive mandates of royal European courts all the way down to a bride wearing a sheer backless lace gown, completely exposed to the elements, paired with athletic sneakers.
Quite the journey.
The modern twists we rely on today are actively, aggressively subverting the rigid traditions of yesterday, but time is a flat circle in fashion.
It always comes back around.
So what will the classic, traditional, conservative bridal gown look like 50 years from now?
Oh, that's a wild thought.
Will today's bold, rebellious interventions, the architectural high-low hemlines, the visible illusion netting, the postmodern sneaker, will those very elements calcify?
Wow. Will they become tomorrow's rigid, inescapable traditions?
Exactly, the kind of suffocating rules that a whole new generation of brides will have to invent new ways to rebel against.
Are we right now just actively manufacturing the antique lace of the future? That is a mind-bending concept to chew on.
Something to think about next time you see a trend.
Definitely. When you walk into that boutique and you brace yourself against that endless, blinding sea of white fabric, just remember, you aren't just choosing an outfit for a party.
You are physically writing the next sentence in a centuries-old history book.
And now, thanks to the Weddizer blueprint, you know exactly how to spell the words.